I've been playing with the mic settings and everything, so we'll see how it works.
Yeah, we'll see. I've never done this with this helmet before, so
Okay.
we'll see how it goes.
It'll be like a he said, she said thing. Your video will be all about what you see, and my video will be all about what I see, and we're on the same road, but it's a completely different story, right?
Yeah.
I'll let you lead the way. First thing we've got to do is plug in the jacket. Got a Gerbing selected jacket liner here. First gear, throttle for the gloves and the jacket. Yellow jacket, you can remember that. Red gloves. So what we're doing today is we're riding with Tim down Gordon, Maine. And Gordon, Maine's a pretty easy logging road. Go ahead, you go first. Yeah, go ahead, you lead. The only thing we haven't got today is our intercom. Yeah, just turn left there. Follow the sign, so it's Gordon River. So Tim's still learning, as you can see, where we are. We've had him here before. You guys probably have seen his video, or maybe you haven't. He did a really good video of his first time out with us, and it wasn't too far from here. He got a wrench, about a 4-inch opened and box end combi wrench in his rear tire. Car's hit a hell of a big hole in his tire and in both sides of his tube. And Tim, being his first time out, he didn't really have any tools. Or spare tube, but the rest of us had them covered. So it was a good lesson for everybody, and we all enjoyed it. And it's kind of one of those things. It's a lot of fun when somebody else breaks. It's never fun when you break down, but it's part of the adventure. And when someone else breaks down, it's just funny. And we all, just kind of get around it, help everyone out. So where we are at Gordon River. So for those of you from the world that like to see what we do and where we drive in British Columbia, if you go look for Victoria and Vancouver Island, you drive about an hour and a half north, you'll find Duncan. From Duncan, it's a little bit north and a little west to Lake Cowichan. On the south end of Lake Cowichan, you can drive down that and you're going to get to Honeymoon Bay. Just before Honeymoon Bay is the Pacific Road paved highway to Port Renfrew. So all you people who ride pavement princesses who only want to stay on the pavement and don't like dealing with this muddy, crappy stuff, the paved road down from Lake Cowichan to Port Renfrew is a beautiful road. It's very much like this, but it is nicely paved. Good twisty road, excellent for motorcycles. In the summer it can be very, very busy with local people. It's a very popular motorcycle ride for, like I said, the pavement bikes. This is the equivalent, so this is actually running parallel to that highway. We're now riding from the north down south, and it's mountain range, big hills. They're not big Canadian mountains, but big hills. It's equivalent of one big hill range, if you will, further west. So there's actually some pretty interesting and rather sketchy for big bikes roads that you can drive on, more like dual sport and really dirt bike roads. But to join these two, get a little money or have floating around, and it's a lot of fun. But this road here, other than the mud, is normally very, very benign. It's a great first road for anyone just wanting to get your feet wet and riding big adventure bikes or dual sports or whatever, just get you in a little bit of dirt time. This time of year, of course, we've had a lot of rain, a little bit of snow. We might see some today, we'll see. So it's kind of sketchy in that you see the surfaces are kind of sucky, right? Kind of wet, and it can be, and it's on hard dirt that logging roads are quite active along here, so it's compressed quite a bit. So you get a little bit of slick on a hard surface, and that's what makes it a little sketchy. People have ride these on street tires, not that I would recommend it. So this road at Gordon, Maine, it's a lovely, like I said, little road. Tim, this is his first time back this year on the dirt. He said, well, let's do just something kind of fun and easy. You can see it's pretty in here. Things aren't all cut down. And we thought, yeah, let's just take a fun time on this and see what we can do. What I want to do, though, and I forgot to do at the stop, is I dropped my windshield for a camera. Yeah, there we go. Don't want the windshield in the way. Don't need it at all, really, when we get out here in these slower speeds. And just makes it kind of nicer for the off-road stuff. This is a Mastad windshield. And the stock Tiger windshields I find are just garbage on this vintage motorcycle. This is a 2015 Tiger XCX. I've done a huge amount of mods for it. Probably going to do a video about that one day, including complete suspension tune-up by Ellis up at SDS Suspension, Shock Therapy Suspension. Ellis is a pretty cool guy. You gotta meet him, talk to him. He's the go-to guy here on the island for dirt bikes, racing bikes, adventure bikes. If you want to get your suspension set up for how you like to ride and your weight, definitely did a huge improvement in mine. On roads like this, it's just the difference between night and day. This bike does come with a pretty damn good suspension, stock WP suspension, so works out really, really well. However, the springs are always pretty light, and being over the middle age, 60 years old Canadian, and with my gear, I'm going to weigh just north of 250 pounds, my riding gear. And then if I carry anything else like we like to do, you could really start to feel the bike want to waddle, especially on stuff like this. The back end would just be like sloppy, silly, you know, in the back. Where with the suspension that's dialed in now, I have zero preload on the bike, and my sag on the rear, which is very important to understand. Look up adventure bike setting sag. Is 100% better. I've actually, the perfect sag for this bike, I believe it's like 2.5 inches for me on it, and I have it set with 1 more inch. So it's actually at 3.5 inches. And the reason why I did that is with this bike, with all the new springs and setup, it feels about 2.5 inches taller. So it's a very tall bike. I have a 33-inch inseam, and only with the stock seat down low can I comfortably get my heels and both feet down on the ground whenever we stop. So if I was to do this all over again with Ellis, I might actually ask him to lower it, had it lowered 1 inch. Just makes it a little more controllable and comfortable when things get real shitty. On these roads, it's not a problem whatsoever, but having the bike just a little bit, having a little more foot control when we get into some really snaky stuff is sometimes really nice. It just makes a little better experience and more pleasure. And what else did we talk about? Oh, so Tim's bike. So Tim's bike is a couple of years newer, not by much. So mine's a 2015. What is it? 2018. The model, when he hasn't gone to the LED headlights yet, his model is also one up from mine. Mine's an a CXC. His is a CXA. And what the A does is it comes with heated seats, slightly bigger alternator to deal with all the electronics, and stock LED headlights. And I think that's it. So a little nicer equipped, but basically it's the same bike. And then both of us found these bikes, there's a bunch of things we really didn't like about them. One is they come stock with a 16-tooth front suspension. Be nice to everybody, everyone will be nice to you. And it's geared too high in first gear, long story short. you have to rev it up quite a bit. It's even when you're riding by yourself. If you're riding two up, it's just kind of almost silly, right? I'm not sure why Tiger did that for the 850. But the new models, they've addressed that, certainly on the 900s. I have ridden, I got two buddies with two 900s, three buddies, sorry, with the new Tiger 900s, and with that new T-plane engine and stuff. I believe it's still a 16-tooth stock front, but you got a lot more lower end torque, and it's a lot more pleasurable with this. I went from a 16-tooth stock to a 15-tooth. Liked it a lot, actually. And then I went to a 14-tooth front sprocket and never looked back. For the Tiger owners wonder what the impact of that is, or what does it mean. Basically, if I look down at the tachometer, if I'm doing 5,000 RPM, I'm doing 100 kilometers an hour. Approximately 60 miles an hour if you're doing the mile stuff in the state. So I didn't really feel I lost anything meaningful on the top end. Maybe not much. And these vintage bikes, of course, do not have the T-plane offset crank. So they're extremely smooth at all RPMs. If you've never ridden one of these triples, don't, because you'll end up buying one. They're just so much interesting character in the motor itself. It does not sound as good as a Harley. It does not sound as good as a V8. I have an Aero can in here, aftermarket exhaust, and I keep the DB killer in here. I don't find the sound of these bikes interesting at all. It's just me, everyone's different. The new 900s with that T-plane offset cylinder firing crank do sound more interesting. Not as interesting as a Harley. I still not running, but a few bikes in my area. Well, Harleys sound cool. V8s sound cool. V12s sound cool. Motorcycles with V-twins or even V4s. If you get the right exhaust on the new Multistradas, the Ducatis, they actually sound pretty good. But you gotta get kind of the right exhaust. People who know what they're doing can fill you in that. And it's horribly expensive. Anything Ducati and Italian. Not that the Tiger's horribly cheap. The other bike I have is a Yamaha W250, and I also have a Goldwing 2010 Goldwing. Put things in a little bit of perspective. So the little WR, Yamaha, amazing little bike. You're not a skinny guy. That thing is, you gotta rev the Jesus out of it, but it loves it and doesn't burn any oil, and it'll go crazy in right places. So this bike currently has an IRC TR8 front tire, quite aggressive, which really helps me when I'm dealing with this shit. And I really like it. I highly recommend it for anybody with a 21-inch tire that's kind of doing this. You're going to pay the price. You see it up there? You're going to pay the price for a little bit of noise. You're also going to pay a little bit of price on the road just with, you know, these Tigers, if you put street tires on them, they're pretty damn respectable street bike. Power on them is just silly. You'll have a ton of fun with them. Beyond stupid speeds in the BC, we would call them impoundment speeds. There's expensive ticket speeds, and then say goodbye to your motorcycle for 7 days or 30 days or 60 days or whatever. So these bikes will get you well into the 120-day vacation for your motorcycle at your expense. You get to see it get towed off for you. So power is never a problem. And for me, on a heavy bike, the most important thing is traction. Heavy bikes, especially if you lose the front end, this is, like I said, really benign stuff, but if you're going down sloppy hills, wet, muddy crap, and the front end, kicks out or goes out, that tends to be pretty goddamn expensive and very difficult to recover. I do have heat bars on here, if you guys can see them down there. Make a big difference. I think the Outback Motortech are probably better. Laurie Combs, my son knows quite well when he lived back east. He didn't have crash bars when this bike came out, and I kind of got a little carried away with it a few times, and so I knew I needed something, and the heaters are decent. I have crashed in them. I've crashed hard on them. I've bent them up and had to straighten them out a bit. But they protected the bike. There is down, if you can see down there, there is a mount that hooks on the bottom, the center stem. You can see the little chrome unit, hopefully. And that hooks on and attaches to the front of the bars. There's a cross brace that hooks from that center stem to the top of the heat bars. Now, I had a really serious crash in Mexico, taking this bike for a month down in Copper Canyon, and that got bent all to hell, and could have annoyed to get it all straightened out. I was a little bit disappointed, but you know what? Something's got to give, right? And you want the cheap stuff and the easily replaceable stuff to give when things go bad. If you look at the heat bars, you can tell which side I came on it. I actually landed hard on the left side. And so you can see even now the left heat bar is closer to the block than on the right side. Right side, left side, you know. And so this bar here is 4 millimeters, probably 3 millimeters, still closer to the motorbike. And that was the result of the impact from that crash. So they got straightened out quite a bit, but there were still some issues. And then it ground the living Jesus out of those bars, and then I ended up just getting it fixed down in Mexico. Had good Mexican insurance. You must do that. The other thing is, if you're going to ride in Mexico, your Canadian insurance, obviously, is no good. But your Mexican insurance is only valid if your Canadian insurance is still valid. Now in BC, we have ICBC. We don't need to go down that road. But with ICBC, you can actually get credit for time in Mexico. So spend a month in Mexico, they'll give you a small refund plus a service fee, and you know, but you get some money back. Probably not worth it for 2 weeks, but you know, a month or more. But you do need, as people don't understand this, you do need a valid registration and insurance, because that's what your Mexican insurance uses as a precursor to determine whether or not you got your shit together. Yeah, I'm not sure where he's going, but he's doing fine. And that your bike is actually a licensed legal bike, right? So don't go traveling down to Mexico and a lot of these countries and let your Canadian insurance expire. And trust me, when he had an accident like I did, it was somebody else's fault. Actually, a Mexican businessman on a small motorbike coming out, he took full responsibility, so that just made life easier. My son was with me, and he was riding on a KLR, speaks very good Spanish, so that really helped. And we both have first aid training, and so my son immediately went over and assisted the other fellow. He looked at me, I was hurt. I mean, I got really hurt, and bent up for like a week. But he looked at me like, yeah, you'll live. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And then the way, we just carried on from there. So, because he was also helping this gentleman, and he really, this bike just destroyed his little bike. He was on like a little Yamaha 125 or something, and no protective gear at all. He was a businessman, so he had on a dress shirt, slacks, and was actually just coming to meet his friend for lunch. A small village we're driving through. Pulled over on the right to go to the restaurant. I was passing him on the left, like that would be no problem. And he looked over his shoulder across the way of the gas station, and there was a buddy that he wanted to talk to. So he just pulled left in front of me, and there was nowhere I could go. We just blew it, and we looked at each other for an instant, and we both had that look. I'm sure I seen his face. I'm sure mine and my helmet was exactly the same way, going, "Oh shit, this is really going to hurt," and it did. Thank God I had all my gear on, and it worked out well. But what it did is this bike slid, and I went down real hard. I went down that direction. He came this way, bounced off that. I went over the bike and went real hard down on my left shoulder, between my left shoulder pad. Thank God I had upgraded armor, and my back pad. And because I'd upgraded armor all throughout, I think it was Klein D330, everywhere that had armor, perfectly fine. But the spaces between, oh crap, that hurt. So, and I hit him. I was cruising. So I'm doing now 46. I bet you I was doing 56, 60 kilometers an hour when I hit him and I launched. So me and the bike slid for quite a while. And it ground the living snot out of, because on pavement at the time, it ground the living snot out of this left-hand heat crash bar. And the guys down in Mexico were able to take care of it. Right away, of course, we get state police, not the federal, state police. Really decent bunch of people, actually. You know, in Mexico, getting in a crash and getting tied up with a local, and you know, the places, pretty much everyone's worst nightmare. They couldn't have been more professional, but here are a couple things going on, right? One is the guy hit took full responsibility. Second, though he was hurt quite bad, my son was leading his care and doing an outstanding job. Actually, I was very proud of him. And he'd organized even the police to take him to the local clinic. There was no ambulance available. There was actually a very good clinic. I would find out later that he was able to take him to. So he got him all secured on a spine board. Said his left knee was just destroyed from what we could see. So, you know, made sure it was stabilized and took care of it. And then when it came time to actually move him, a couple of his cousins show up, and they weren't thinking too highly of me, I can tell you that. But they wanted to take over his care, and the patient was just yelling at him and saying, no goddamn way. He had already seen that my son was doing a great job of it and knew how to move him and take care of his knee, so he basically fired his cousins and told my son Chris, he says, you just keep doing what you're doing, you tell these guys what to do. So they stabilized him and his knee on a spine board. They put him in the back of a police pickup truck and got him off to the clinic to get some care, and apparently got really good care. So when the police, of course, they want to see all my paperwork, and you know, they're not idiots. You know, there's a lot of stereotypes about people in Mexico. I can tell you pretty much all of them are wrong. And they're smart guys, and they had no trouble at all, especially the officers. They went through that with a fine-tooth comb, and they were going, okay, good. They were able to check and validate my ICBC insurance was good. They went through it with everything, and so all my import stuff was done. 100%, the bike was 100%, serial numbers all matched, everything was just 100%. So they're like, you know, perfectly fine in a very short period of time. And again, so much help from the patient, for the other driver, for again taking full accountability and responsible for it, but also, you know, me doing my stuff, not going down to Mexico like some, you know, smart ass guy from Canada or the US, and you guys are all idiots. Treated them with respect, including having the documentation, all complete, insurance, blah blah blah. They ended up being super cool to work with and very helpful, and couldn't have been more impressed. And there's actually if you go look on the ADV Rider forum, a very good forum for a lot of information about Mexico. There is a thread called "Is Mexico Safe?" And within that thread, you'll see my little story there, in pictures and stuff. But it's a very long thread now. You look up my ID, R.A. Connell. You know, R.A. Connell and Crash, probably find it. And yeah, I was very impressed with the people. I was very impressed with the care I got at the local clinic. And I was quite surprised when I went to, you know, to pay. I get some, you know, medications. I got, you know, some bandaging and stuff, and they gave me some painkillers and anti-inflammatory stuff, and you know, really good care from the nurse. They, from the female doctor. There's a husband and wife doctor team who are in that clinic. They don't speak too good of English, but their son is excellent English, probably 15, 16 years old. He came along and phenomenal. And so the husband of the two took after the fellow with the knee, and I didn't want to leave my bike in Mexico. My son was with me, but I didn't want to leave my bike. So the wife came down. She heard I was hurt, wanted to make sure I was okay, brought her all her big kit and the whole 9 yards. Actually treated me right there in town in a nice little garden area. It was actually next to a service station. They had a really nice backyard garden, shady tree picnic tables, all really quite lovely actually. Again, stereotypes. And she was a rock star. Got some pictures of her. And I was very impressed with the care. And at the end I said, okay, well, obviously I owe you some money. She said, no, this is all paid through the state. You don't pay for anything. And I said, well, can I give you something for your time or anything at all? Like, nope, absolutely not. This is just part of the service, and this is what we do. This is why we're here. So I thought that was very cool. Again, completely different than anything that you would expect, right? Traveling down there, we was trying to carry, a couple $100 Yankee dollars just in case something happens. We have money. Totally not required. Gonna seal up your bike.
Oh, it's nice in here. I want to get some pictures in here.
Oh, sure, no problem.
Am I going too slow for you?
No. I'm just talking on the camera, so I don't care. I'm just out enjoying the day.
These tires are pretty slick on this stuff.
Oh, you finding it that way?
Yeah.
Oh, well, especially your back end. Yeah, I had that on my bike for a while too. I still have a brand new one all wrapped up from Fort 9. There isn't a lot of lateral stability on that. Front and back, you're fine. Yeah. But just because the rubber goes all the way on that top part of the tire, it's just going to move all over that.
Yeah, I feel it moving.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of life left on them either. So.
Yeah, they're down there a bit.